Imagine that after a ruined marriage and feeling like your life is a mess, you return to Korea without any hope. However, life can be funny sometimes, and an old flame begins to rekindle for your former neighbor. The story begins with a group of mothers hiking. Hae-suk constantly brags about her son, who is a successful architect, while Mi-suk talks about her daughter's wedding and how close she is to famous people, but she also doesn't miss a chance to mention how successful Suk-ryu is in his profession. Meanwhile, at the airport, the protagonist arrives without telling anyone except her best friend, Moum, who came to pick her up. After spending some time together, Moum suggests preparing a surprise with balloons for Suk-ryu to do with his family. However, just before they ring the doorbell, Moum gets called into work and has to leave her friend hanging. So, the protagonist continues wandering the neighborhood alone until she accidentally runs into Sung-hyo, her childhood best friend and former neighbor. Even though he teases Suk-ryu, Sung-hyo helps her hide when their mothers approach, and from their playful banter, you can tell their relationship will be fun to watch. Knowing his friend well, Sung-hyo advises the protagonist to face the problem she's hiding from her family right away. After all, he knows that the longer she delays, the harder the slaps from her mother will be, and the longer the silent treatment will last. In the next scene, we see the emergency Moum was called to at work, where she proves to be a great paramedic. A journalist nearby, impressed by her skills, even asks for her number after things calm down, but Moum just ignores him. Back to the protagonist. Before meeting her family, knowing that some slaps might be coming, she decides to put on all the coats in her suitcase to soften the blows. Even so, Suk-ryu gets a close-up view of his mother's fury when, not realizing she's nearby, he mentions that her marriage was called off and that she quit her job to return to Korea with no apparent plan. Actually, the one who suffered most was Sung-hyo, who, trying to calm Mi-suk, stepped between the two but ended up getting hit himself. Despite all this, he's happy that his friend is back, and now things are sure to get a lot more lively. Going back to the past, we see that the protagonist used to spend most of her time with Sung-hyo, and whenever she had a bit of her salary left over, she would buy a little gift for her mother. Now, returning to the present, we see the conversation Mi-suk had with her daughter the night before. The reason for all these sudden decisions was that Suk-ryu was tired of always having to push herself. She was always the top student, then the best on her team, which earned her a good position at her company, and she was the perfect wife. However, as we all know, there comes a time in life when you need to slow down. But her mother doesn't take her daughter's words very well. The funny thing about this situation is that Mi-suk has developed a habit. Whenever her anger reaches a certain level, she goes down to the basement and vents her feelings by playing the drums. Throughout the day, we follow the headquarters of the company that Sung-hyo is building. It will be a building for his partners and architects' offices, but before the grand opening, he receives bad news. One of his projects will have to be postponed due to a lack of resources. Meanwhile, the protagonist is upset to discover that her mother is ashamed of her, since the gossip has already spread. Because of this, Suk-ryu promises not to attend her best friend's company opening, so the neighbors won't talk about Mi-suk. Switching to Sung-hyo, we see him being interviewed by that journalist who had fallen for Moum, proving once again how small the world really is. In the next scene, our protagonist is on a bus when memories start to resurface. One of them is at a party, where she's surprised to see a man kissing another woman. Could this have been Suk-ryu's ex? Later, the protagonist returns home with a pomegranate tree and gives it to Sung-hyo, who keeps her gift in his office. The next day is the opening of Sung-hyo's company, and even though Suk-ryu said she wouldn't attend, she goes to the event just to give her mother a gold brooch she had been looking for earlier, the same brooch the protagonist had given her mother many years ago. However, at that moment, Suk-ryu realizes that Mi-suk is ashamed of her. After all, her mother had made up several lies to her old school friends, and of course, this upsets the protagonist. But when mother and daughter arrive home, the tension between them gets even worse, as Mi-suk tries to force her daughter to pack her bags and return to the United States. At that point, Sukryu opens up, saying that she's always pushed herself to be the best at everything, to the point where she barely slept all these years, which is why she now spends most of her days resting. What hurts the protagonist the most, though, is that her mother doesn't even try to understand her and is always the first to point a finger instead of offering a shoulder to lean on. The fight between the two ends with Sukryu asking Mi-suk why her mother's happiness depends on her success. And I think it's only now that Mi-suk finally opens her eyes and sees that her daughter isn't okay. The next day, she asks Sung-hyo for help redecorating the protagonist's room and starts treating her much better. Meanwhile, Sukryu goes to the playground, a place she chose to de-stress. In a conversation with Sung-hyo, he admits he's afraid his company might go bankrupt, since there are still many gaps to fill and, when it comes to money, things are always uncertain. When Sukryu sees her newly redecorated room, you can see on her face how much she loved the surprise. I think another feeling that came up was that now she has a safe haven to escape her problems. But the surprises don't stop there. Sung-hyo decides to move back in with his parents, which means the two will once again be window neighbors. In the next scene, we go back in time and see a swimming competition that Sung-hyo is about to take part in. But this isn't just any competition, it's the Federation Finals. Since his family couldn't be there because of work, the only one cheering for Sung-hyo when he won first place was Sukryu. Back in the present, the protagonist runs into her high school teacher by chance at her parents' restaurant. To help her with her groceries, Sukryu accompanies her back to the school. During their conversation, we see that the teacher, who is now the principal, doesn't know about Sukryu's resignation and divorce. But since the woman spoke with such enthusiasm, Sukryu decided not to tell the truth at that moment, and soon the two ran into Sung-hyo. The man is at the school to apply to be the one in charge of the building's interior design project. Knowing how much he loves that pool that brought him so many opportunities, Sung-hyo is truly determined to win. Later, the two take advantage of being at their old school to look for a time capsule they made, but they just end up getting dirty, since they can't find it. In the next scene, Sung-hyo is presenting a project, but ends up arguing with his clients when they admit they want a copy of another building. Instead of the partners reaching an agreement, things get even worse as they argue in front of everyone. The reason for this is that Sung-hyo refuses to plagiarize, while his partner argues that, at the moment, they don't have the luxury of choosing. Meanwhile, Moum is at work when she suddenly receives several rice cakes sent by that journalist who's fallen for her, though she still hasn't realized who sent them. Back to the protagonist, Sukryu is called in for a job interview as soon as she gets back from her trip, which means there are already many people interested in the talented protagonist. Right after the interview, Sukryu runs into Sung-hyo, and during their conversation, he asks if she really wants to keep working in the same field. Sukryu is pretty confused about what to do, and being a bit selfish, she tells her friend that he'll never understand her life, since he's always had a perfect one. However, she quickly regrets saying that, because years ago, before Sung-hyo could qualify for the Olympics, he was hit by a careless driver and his dream was shattered, since he could never compete again. The next day, Sung-hyo apologizes to his partner for how he acted in front of the clients, and now he's left thinking about what Sukryu said, since she was right when she said he's always had privileges. As for the protagonist, to de-stress, she decides to go to the school at night to look for the time capsule by herself. When the principal finds her, Sukryu thinks it's a good time to open up about how her life is going. The principal is a bit surprised, but completely understands the choices she's made. After all, she's known Sukryu since she was young, and the girl never had an easy temperament when things didn't go as planned. Later, Sukryu heads to the school pool to meet her friend, who's also there. The two end up making up and having some fun together, even reminiscing about the time when Sung-hyo was recovering from his accident and Sukryu kept him company every day. In the protagonist's letter that was in the time capsule, she only talked about herself. In Sung-hyo's letter, however, he confessed that he had always had feelings for his friend. What did you think of these episodes? I hope you enjoyed the recap. Leave your suggestions in the comments and subscribe. If you liked the video, please like and share to help me out. See you next time.